What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another video. Hope everybody's doing well, and let's dive straight into things. So we've had quite an interesting day today. Not the reversal I was anticipating so fast on a Tuesday, but we've had a very large expansion to the upside on dollar, running straight for that Sunday opening price, completely running through that volume imbalance. And now when we have large expansion days like this is when we want to start looking for breakers and such to get on the right side of the market. So it was interesting to see that dollar failed to take out the sell side liquidity. This is clearly a bullish monthly fair value gap right here. I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is the fair value gap I drew our attention to. Came right down to the 50% level, and now you can see we're starting to retrace back into the range. So what's nice to see is that we are retracing back into the range as anticipated, in line with it being the end of the month. And now we can start looking at the range of the months of April so far. So we can look at the high of April, which is over here, and then the low, and we can anticipate price to start drawing towards the equilibrium of that. So that very interesting there. The fact that we've ran this daily volume imbalance now makes this a bullish fair value gap, and now I'm looking for these highs to start getting ran. So I'm going to get rid of a few things here. I really didn't anticipate such large expansion. I do wonder if the news had an impact on this, in terms of, you know, things to do with certain people passing away and such around the world. I'm not exactly sure, because there wasn't too much high impact news today, but nonetheless we still got quite a large expansion. So I'm now looking for this buy side liquidity to get taken and this buy side liquidity to get taken, and I'm looking at these specifically because these are where the up close candles are. So I want to see these get ran so that price can, you know, evidence to me that we are bullish. So yeah, it's nice to see that we're back with that Sunday opening price. We do have a fair value gap up here that I'd like to see price start to work its way towards, and then I will be trading the London session tomorrow, anticipating price to be able to trade up into this fair value gap. So let's drop down to the 4 hour, take a closer look, and you can see that large expansion we had on the past 3 hours. And then we can also look at this gap, make it a little bit larger, and again this should act as a bullish fair value gap now. We have relative equal highs above here. Again, buy side liquidity. We have a gap up here, but I'm looking for us to fill this fair value gap this week. So I'm looking for price to continue to rally up into that. So let's go to the 1 hour, see if we can find any potential setups. And you can see we had some divergence here, very classic. As in, you'll see that pound took out the high, whereas dollar fails to take out that low. And then you can see our price has just rolled over quite nicely, and we're trading through this consolidation now. So obviously I'm going to let the Asia range trade, and then moving into the London session, I'll be looking for a 15-minute fair value gap within the upper quarter of the range. So whenever we do eventually create the high for today, so let's say we create the high here, I'll be looking around this level for the London session, expecting that price may be able to create a low there and then expand and continue to rally above these relative equal highs moving into the new day, and above here as well. So let me bring that to the front, and you can see the buy side liquidity above here. Again, it's it looks like there's high potential it looks like there's high potential for the Asia session to potentially run these stops, but if it doesn't run these stops, then I want to see London take out that buy side liquidity. So yeah, but I'm expecting us to eventually fill this fair value gap. But it's nice to see this kind of expansion because it does allow us to get on the right side of the market pretty quickly, because there's a clear willingness to want to go higher. So hopefully you've watched yesterday's video. You remember me saying I did expect us to drop a bit lower so that we could create some low and then reverse, but it looks like that reversal that I was anticipating happened early in the week. So this was clearly a rush to some kind of price, like run on stops. So now I'm expecting us to start trading higher and being an uptrend as we move potentially even into these relative equal highs as well, especially with non-farm payroll next week. So now it's just a matter of being able to identify them setups and use the sell side as leverage for that. And what I mean by that is, if we go back to the 1 hour, you'll see this consolidation, and what I'll do is right before this large drop, we have a bullish order block right here. I'd like to think that would act as bearish order block. I'd like to think that would act as support. So if we were to retrace back down that deeply, I'd want to see support found there. But then there's also even a fair value gap, which should now technically act as an inversion fair value gap right here. So we can just keep looking at that to be using as a reference as to where we'd want to find our setups forming. So let's head on to GBP USD. And you'll find that price, and as you can see that GBP had very large expansion after 5:30 p.m, trading lower and running straight for the sell stops in Monday, which is what I wanted to see get taken, but not to this extent. And then we've also ran that Sunday opening price as well. So now that we're below that, I want to see that act as resistance. Now you can see we are kind of floating around it, but I don't expect us to travel much further above it now. I'd expect it to provide resistance in that range, and for us to continue into the discount and start running these lows below here. So just because pound's looking a little bit messy, I'm going to get rid of a few things. that we don't need anymore, or that I'm not really paying attention to. And this is that 50% level I was talking about. So if you remember yesterday's video, I was saying that I'd expect price to find support here. You can see as soon as we closed below that, that's when I was like, okay, I doubt we're going to find support here, because we traded through it, and then resistance, 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 and then we left it again. And there was a setup here, fair value gap, short, and then since then price has been rallying, falling heavily lower. But yeah, very interesting nonetheless. And now I'm looking at these lows, because these are relative equal lows which stand out to me. So we'll just below here as sell stops. So it'd be nice to see if price can get its way into there. Let's go up to the daily, just take a closer look at how it's traded on the daily. And you can see again, expansion ran out those lows. So this is now a bearish order block, which is also the open on Monday. So that means that if we trade into that, we expect resistance. And now I'm looking for this implied fair value gap to get traded to moving into Wednesday, and then eventually run these sell stops below here ideally. So let's go to the 4 hour. Now it does feel a little bit like we're chasing price in terms of, oh, it's foul, so that means it must be going lower. But when we have expansion to that extent, I don't know why the expansion happened at this time, unless I'm missing some kind of news or something. Let me just check. I don't think I've missed anything crazy. But, oh, okay. Well, there's some news on tariffs. But anyway, my point is, I wasn't expecting such a large expansion, but when we do have large expansion, this is a clear run to liquidity, as in price is now being very directional, saying I want to go this direction, and now it's just a matter of looking for those setups within that range that can help us get those setups. So as I said, that Sunday opening price, I'm looking for it to provide resistance, and then I want to see us trade into this implied fair value gap, and then these relative equal lows below here, in line with dollar ideally continuing to rally with the expectation to fill this fair value gap this week. But yeah, very interesting day to say the least, and the fact that we have high impact news tomorrow is just setting me up more for expected, you know, a good setup, as in I should be able to find a nice setup around those times. Large expansion here. You see this gap? I don't really want to see us trade back up into here. I'm happy for this fair value gap to get traded to, but this one I'd like to see get left open. That will show a nice level of bearishness. And again, looking at this bearish order block, we've traded through it. So this is not this is not a bullish order block anymore. It should act as a bearish order block, and we should be able to use that to our advantage. As in, within that range, we can pay close attention and expect that this should be giving us shorting opportunities. That doesn't mean go short, guys. It just means that the way it treats it, so the 50% level, 25% level, it should struggle within there, maybe consolidate, and then we should be able to use the back of that to help us trade lower. And you can see it's created some relative equal lows below this low and this low just now. So this is what it's doing, engineering in that liquidity, ideally with the idea that I think it's going to try and run for it tomorrow, assuming that dollar does want to continue with the rallying. But yeah, very interesting. I do need to find out what that news release was, or what sentiment drove that. So we're going to finish on Euro USD. Again, Euro, like dollar, fails to take out the high, whilst dollar fails to take out the low. Price rolled over. This was where I wanted to find support. Did it find support? No. It traded below it, resistance, and continued to expand through that Sunday opening price. So where do we want to go? I'm looking at these relative equal lows, and I'm looking at these relative equal lows now as well. So these significant points as to where there's going to be lots of sell stops for price for smart money to want to accumulate. And again, in terms of retracement, I'm not expecting much retracement at all. Any kind of retracement, you know, it's going to be difficult. This is where I tend to struggle with trading, and you really have to go off time. So my setup, I'm not going to be trading until London 2 a.m, 3 a.m, because when we have large expansions like this, sometimes it doesn't even retrace. Sometimes it just rolls straight over. So it's going to be a matter of time and just me looking for my setup, my classic setup at 2 a.m. for price to form, and then yeah, running towards that sell side liquidity. But again, what helps us is us being below that Sunday opening price, because it acts as a barometer for price, as in once we're below it, it should act as resistance, and once we're above it, it should act as support. Did it act as support here? No. Closed below it significantly, as in strongly, and now I want to see it provide resistance. So any kind of consolidation we do through the Asia session, moving into the early hours of London, I want to see a setup form ideally. So yeah, that's going to be everything, guys. Pretty quick video, very interesting expansion after 5 p.m. I am going to try and find out what's going on, unless I'm missing something. I don't know if a bomb's dropped somewhere and I'm just not aware. But nonetheless, tomorrow should be interesting. Don't forget to turn on post notifications. Smash like, smash comment, smash subscribe, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Peace.